Okay, so I had a post recently on our SLR coaching community group, a discussion going on really about ND grad filters, shooting landscapes, having that challenge of the sky either being blown out or the ground, just balancing the two. If you expose and get the nice green grass and mountain scenes, whatever it is, the sky tends to just blow out white. If you try and darken it so that you're getting the colour in the sky, then you tend to have just a black ground. And that's where you get these ND grad filters. You can see how that's standing out. The point is you're really like putting sunglasses on the top half and leaving the bottom half clear, so that you're darkening down that sky but keeping the detail in the ground. So these filters have been around for a while. You can get varying qualities of them. The post really came up, someone was having a go with this, but we're having a few challenges. So what I wanted to do today was just to jump in. I'm doing a screen recording here with Lightroom on, so we can jump between the two, and I'll talk to you and just show you very quickly what you can do in Lightroom, rather than relying on these, you know, if you haven't got this with you. Or well, let's just first of all show you the challenges of this. I know Tim won't mind me putting this up. He's a learner, and will be keen to see what we're doing here. Now, what you can see on this photo of Tim's here is that he's applied one of these ND grad filters, but it's very hard actually when you're looking through the viewfinder to know that you've got this at the right height. You can vary the height that you drop this in on, and you need to get it just on the top of your ground, else this is what happens. And it may well be, you know, till Tim got back to his computer that he even spotted this, but above the tree line there, you can see that it goes darker on the clouds from that point up, and then there's a strip where it's bright below. And I'm suggesting that's because this just hasn't come low enough. Now, there's not a lot I can do with this image, in fairness, to really just focus on that strip through the middle there. So I did have a play with this. We've got some here that are brighter, and so he shot these, I think, probably with a burst. You can set your camera so it does at 3 stages, bright, medium and dark, and then you can put them all together. I think that's probably what Tim's done here, but let me just show you the flexibility with Lightroom and working with raw photos. So what I can do on here, over on this side, we've come into, when you first come into Lightroom, you'll import your photos into this library area, and then you come over to this developer tab. From here, I can either apply presets and things down here, and we'll cover that maybe in another, or definitely will in another installment of this. But at the moment, this is the side we're working on, and let me just show you straight away. I can pull this exposure down, so as if Tim in his camera has increased the aperture or slowed down the shutter speed. You know, you can brighten an image that way, or in this case, we're darkening it down. We're going the other way. We're taking that aperture size down. We're allowing this to bring this exposure down, and it's doing the whole thing. So this is what I'm saying, and this is your challenge if you were out on site. Do you look at the sky and focus for that, or do you focus for the ground? And if Tim had a focus for the sky, well, the ground would be looking like this. You can see again, actually, as it comes down this strip across where we're definitely darker there than it is at the back of the sky. So this still has got that ND grad filter on. So I'm going to struggle to recover this one, in all honesty. What I did is, rather than try and do this and feel like I'm a bit on the back foot a bit really, I just pulled in myself very quickly a photo that I took. Just walked the dog the other morning, and I thought, I'll grab my camera, let's get a scene that I know is clean and it doesn't have any filters over the front of it, and let's backtrack from it. So as you can see, I've exposed for the ground. Very basic, f8, 1/60th of a second shutter speed, and ISO of 320. So that's quite a clean and simple setup to start with. Now again, let me show you, I can just pull the exposure down. So this is really all I could do in camera is deal with the whole thing. So if I bring that down so now I can see some detail in the sky, look what's happened to the ground. So where do we go with this? There are different ways of working with this, and I can, for instance, bring that down a bit anyway. I'd rather work with an underexposed image. I can push up the shadows. So now that's bringing up the ground area on here. And then I can pull down the highlights. So what it's doing is it's looking at my photo, and it's not like I just did a minute ago with the exposure where everything comes down or goes up. It's saying, right, okay, we'll take the bright bits and we'll pull them down and we'll boost up the color in the dark areas. And your camera, because we're shooting in RAW like this, it captures all that information. It works really well at dealing with it like this in post-production. What else can I do? I can tweak that contrast a little bit. So I've not gone into any presets. This is purely what I'm doing. This clarity is quite a nice tool. Let me push it to the end, and you can see this kind of effect that it does. If I take it the other way, it softens it. I always do this with these tools. Just push them one way or the other to the extremes, realize what they do, and then put it back to something usable. My vibrance down here, look, let's see what happens. Ooh, that's a bit too much. The other way takes it kind of black and white. So I'm going to give that a little bit of a boost. So that now is, I mean, it's like I say, I was walking the dog. It's not a scene. It's just not a landscape that I'm trying to put on the wall or anything like that. It was just purely for this example without me going too far afield. I could warm that a little bit. Now, what you might not have seen down here, as you scroll down this thing, you've got this area, and I can adjust the hue, saturation, luminance of different colors. So if I say in my saturation, I pick up the blue, we're going to look at the sky for a minute. I can push that blue. Again, let's go to the extreme and then come back. Look at that. It's affected nothing else in the photo. It's just picked out the blues. So I can give that a little bit of a tweak, and I can make that sky bluer than it was. Now, staying with my blues, let's go over to this hue tool. Look again what's happening with the blues as I move this. Can you see what we're doing? We're actually changing the color of the blue, the hue, the amount of blue that's in there, or is it sitting on this kind of color wheel, a scale, and the colors are moving around. So I can get that. If I want to get a deeper blue, I can take that around there. I can pull that back then if I want to darken that blue down. So let's just have a quick nose at how different that looks. There it is now. Again, it's obviously over the top with that blue, and there it was before. So not a great deal has happened around the houses, but I have really pulled the blue out of that sky. Now, don't worry, I'm not saying this is what I would do as an end. That's an extreme that we've got there. But yeah, I can adjust this then and set that to something I'm happy with. Now, the same happens with the green. If I think down here that this kind of browny green on the ground wants a bit of a boost, let's go to the extreme with it and see what happens. See that green on the lawn there has just come in. So these are ways that I can pick out different elements, different areas within that scene and adjust them accordingly. Scroll back up. Again, the highlights tool. Yeah, there we go. So there you go, Tim. There's one thing that you can do by doing it, highlights and shadows. Now let me just tick reset and set that back to where it was to start with. This is another way of doing it. This is our graduated filter. And when I tick this, let's just reset it a minute. Or not. What I can do is I'm going to drag at a point and come down. So I'm really trying to recreate this, and I'm just choosing this top area. And as I bring this tool down, and as I move left or right, it will kind of swing with me. What's going to happen, I'll show you first of all like this. when I hover over this black dot in the middle, it shows me what's happening. Might need to just move this up a bit. So you can see up in the cloud here, when I hover over that, it's showing me that the top area in this red is where it's going to apply whatever settings I put in now. This is a mask. And then it's gradually coming from that middle line down to the bottom line so we're solid to this middle line, and then the distance, the graduation that I want is determined by how far apart these lines are. So in the same way that at the bottom of this, we've got this gradual change. If I put it in that way up and it went like that, it's going to be a really sharp stop off. I can adjust that by taking this up. Okay, now let's look when I click on here. That's a much sharper line there. So do you understand? It's the feathering is another term you might be familiar with. So I'm going to pull this down now to here. And I can see by looking at it that that's slightly wonky actually. And tell you what, I'm going to scrub this. So I click on it there and I delete it. And I can bring in another one. So I'm not going to come down very far on this one. I don't want much of a feather on there, much of a gradient. I'm just going to let that sit like there. And as I hover on that, now again, I'm not happy with that. Let's do it again. Delete you. I'm looking way over on the left there. Look on the tops of those roofs. I want it lined up with that, and then the top of the tree line the other side. And there we go. That's pretty spot on. So now I am only affecting this top half. Look what happens when I pull the exposure down. Okay, so I've done what we did at the start on the whole image, but now it's only affecting the top half of the photo. The bottom is not picking anything up. If I come out of there, you can see very nasty. We've got this kind of line going across here. Now you can imagine if I'd graduated that more, it would just slowly filter into the area below. I tick back on this to come back into the editing settings. So I can push that back up. I can do the same thing and just pull my highlights down. Now, why would I do this? Well, it might be that there are some highlights below this horizon that I don't want to be affected. So I'm just purely masking this top area. Maybe I want to push the saturation up in the top part of the photo and I don't want the bottom adjusted. So can you see how useful this is? I could adjust the sharpness in one area and not the other. It is more limited as to what I can do. In fact, look, if I pull the temperature down, it's going to make it naturally more blue anyway. So yeah, there's a few. That's another way of looking at this. This is the tool I was meaning when I was talking to you, Tim, in the group. If I just move that back up, we can adjust that feather and make it a little bit softer. So that's another way of looking at this. With really what we've recreated is exactly what this is doing. Exposure is stopped down up here and exposure is left fine at the bottom. And that's what we've just done, is to take that exposure down at the top but leave it at the bottom. Okay, so hopefully that's been helpful to you. That's really just demonstrating to you this graduated filter mask, whatever you want to call it. Have a go with it and see how it changes your landscapes. There were a few people that had put landscape shots on there that, yeah, you've struggled a bit with trying to tone that sky down. Shoot it in RAW, bring it into Lightroom. I've got a link to Lightroom below. Have a play with it. It's good fun.